What's up, everybody? It is late night edition of Catfish on Ice with your host, Chad Minson and Max Greenberg. Come on in. The water is fine. It's a non-game night. Preds aren't playing, but that gives us plenty of topics to really dive into. The Preds got a little bit of a break here, a couple days off before they go into a back-to-back over the weekend. Max, how are you doing tonight, man?
Doing good. Just chilling. I was watching a very terrible football game before I turned this on.
Yeah, I mean, poor Thursday night football. They always get the short end of the stick on these matchups.
They do, man. This one especially, though. I won't go too into it, but man, it's bad. For any football fans, but man, it's a bad one tonight.
Yeah, definitely. All right, thank you everyone for watching, whether you're watching on X live right now, if you're watching on our YouTube channel, hit subscribe, or if you're watching on Facebook, we appreciate you watching the live streams. Some really good topics to dive into pretty deep tonight since we're not watching a game live or we're not reacting to a post-game matchup tonight with the Preds since they have the night off. Going to give something for all of us to chew on right off the rip here tonight. And I've noticed, and I think a lot of us have noticed, that the Predators have been arguably the hottest team in the NHL since they ended that 4-game losing streak coming up almost a month ago from now on November 18th. They ended a 4-game losing streak, and they were kind of reeling. We were really starting to question if this was going to be one of those really tough non-playoff. They were in last place, if I remember correctly. Am I remembering that correctly? And then going into that matchup,
they were close to it. I knew they were close. They were like,
I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty positive that when they went into that matchup with Chicago, both teams were in last place in the Central Division. I'm pretty confident in that.
They were bottom 3 for sure. They were bottom 3.
Since then, the Predators are 11-3-0.
Yep.
And have the most wins in the NHL during that stretch. So we are going to chew on that. Me and Max are both going to give our opinions. There are a few other teams out there that are also playing extremely great hockey right now. So we're going to kind of compare some of these teams. Some of them are the usual suspects that are playing pretty good right now. Some other teams might surprise you a little bit, but obviously the Predators are right there. So we're going to kind of discuss that. We are going to size up the Predators if they were in a 7-game series right now. We know there's tons of hockey left. We know they might not even make the playoffs, but we want to size them up because, as we know, this Preds team has had a hard time doing anything of note in the playoffs since their President's Trophy season. So it's 5 years now. So
yeah,
is this the year that they could actually make some noise? Obviously, a lot of hockey left, but we're going to be hypothetical. We're going to size them up in a 7-game series against some likely opponents if they had a 7-game series today. Also, been really thinking about this a lot lately, Max. Ryan O'Reilly was acquired over the offseason.
Yep.
The Predators don't have a rich history of acquiring big-named players over the offseason as free agents. They just don't have a lot of – they've acquired players through trades. They've got tons of great players throughout their history that were homegrown draft picks, but they don't have a tons of big-time free agents. They have smaller tier free agents they've picked up over the years that did well, but I'm talking about the big-name veterans. They don't have a lot of examples in their history, but they do have a few. We're going to look at Ryan O'Reilly's current season. Where do we see him going? Could he end up being one of the best Preds in history in their first year with the franchise, a player that was acquired over the offseason? We'll look at that. Also, have to react to that great Titans game, that one of the best comeback wins in Titans history. I mean,
unbelievable.
14 points scored in, what was it, like 2 minutes and 40 seconds?
Let me pull up the stat. Let me pull up the stat that was shown here. It was a stat with teams under 3 teams that were down 14 points with under 3 minutes left since 2016 were 0-767 before the Titans did it on Monday night. 0-767. Think about that for a second.
I don't feel so bad now that I turned the game off. I feel like a horrible fan, but I did. I turned the game off.
I didn't turn the game off, but like I'm the kind of guy that'll keep it on if it's like 10-1 or anything. Anybody who was thinking logically would have turned that game off.
And then my phone started blowing up, and I got some Twitter notifications saying this tweet aged well, or one of my buddies texted me like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they did it." And I'm like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I pull up the ESPN app and I see they win 28-27. And I'm still just completely baffled, don't understand it. I end up going back and rewinding it to see exactly how they made the comeback. We'll close the episode out talking about that for sure, because as you all know now, is if you've listened to the last couple of episodes, we will be doing a weekly Titans segment now every week on this show. So we're excited about that. Let's see. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, we are going to preview the Preds as they take on the Hurricanes on Friday night. We'll preview that matchup, look at it a little bit. Also, want to get caught up with some 2023 Preds draft picks. Some big news for both of our first round picks, Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk, make the Team Canada roster for the 2024 World Juniors. So that is really great news for Predators fans, because over the holidays on December 26th is when the World Juniors start, and we will watch 2 first-round draft picks for the Predators take the ice for one of your perennial favorites every year in the tournament, Team Canada. So exciting.
Announced today they made it, and good hats off to both of them.
Very, very good. I mean, Matthew Wood was playing third line in the development camp, and then Tanner Molendyk was injured for most of the tryout, and still that says a lot about his talent right there.
That's all I was hearing about. And, someone who doesn't keep up, too much with the minor leagues, especially during football season. I've been seeing all over Tanner Molendyk battling injury the whole time. He still gutted it out and made it. So really, really well done to him. And congrats to both players.
I can't wait to watch both of these guys play in the World. That's one of my favorite times of the hockey calendar. I know it's not NHL, but I always love watching the World Juniors, and we get to see 2 first-round picks play for Team Canada, one of the favorites of the whole tournament. I mean, it's going to be really, really exciting for Preds fans to watch those 2 offensively prolific players play some big-time hockey, big-time minutes for Canada. So we are really, really looking forward to that. So let's dive right in with our opening face-off tonight, and that is, of course, the Predators being one of the hottest teams in the NHL. Max, kind of tell me what is really fueling, if you have to pick one thing, what's really fueling this recent winning stretch of hockey, 11-3-0 in almost the last calendar month?
I had to pick, it's a lot of things, honestly. If I had to, go with one thing, it honestly really seems at this point like if I had to pick one thing, it seems like the whole system under Andrew Brunette is really starting to work. As the guy is playing the 200-foot game, having the kind of flashy offensive skill, and you see guys like Philip Forsberg who are lighting the lamp, carrying the team the whole way through. I wouldn't say carrying the team, but I think I really just think it's the system right now starting to pay dividends for this Predators team, and you can see every day how effectively and also finding that balance between being physical but also playing good offense. We've talked about before on this podcast, just because this team is more of a kind of flashy offensive team now does not mean they've just completely abandoned the physical game. And Andrew Brunette, as I've also nearly beaten the dead horse on, has been very open about that. Hey, I've taken this time to kind of figure out my team, and as he's kind of gone and had more games with his team, he's and as he's gone had more games with his team, he seems like he's figuring out more and more what suits his team. And also, it seems like kind of the effect that he's having on the players, and this is kind of a smaller thing, but when he scratched a lot of his the players, when then they've come back the next few games and they start playing well. So I think you're seeing the effect that this head coach is having on this team right now. And he's not perfect, of course, and he's not going to be for a while. He's still figuring out this team. And, I still question some of how frequently he adjusts the lineup a lot of times. But, but I think you're seeing the Andrew Brunette really starting to mesh with this team. And, he seems like the perfect coach of this team, especially with how young, fast, and offensively inclined a lot of these new Preds are.
Yeah, for sure. Everything is clicking together right now. You're not really seeing any major weaknesses. Even the penalty kill is playing great right now.
Lights out.
But if I have to pinpoint one thing that really sticks out, you have to say it. It has to be UC Saros. He was like the missing puzzle piece. He really was. He was the missing puzzle piece of the team just really coming together and just being a really unstoppable force for almost any opponent out there. I mean, there's very few teams that are going to be able to beat the Predators on a consistent basis if the offense is doing what it's doing right now, if special teams is doing what it's doing right now, and you got UC Saros standing on his head, giving up 2 to 3 goals per game right now, 30-plus save performances in a lot of these games, plus 0.94, 0.93, 9.5 save percentages in a lot of these wins he's getting right now. It's not like he's getting roasted for 4 or 5 goals per game and the offense is bailing him out and he's still getting wins. No, he's winning his results by giving up 2 and 3 goals, sometimes 1 goal in these wins. So, I mean, I got to say, there's a lot of great things going on right now with this team, as Max just illustrated. But for me, if you got to pick one, it's UC Saros, and that means really bad things for the rest of the NHL, because everyone knows no matter how great the rest of the team's playing, we know that UC Saros is one of those goalies that's capable of just stealing win after win for his team. But now he's got a team that actually supports him in goal support, in special teams, in power play, at least lately during this hot stretch we're talking about right now. That's like the secret missing piece right there. If Saros becomes what we know he can be, I don't know how this team's not going to continue to keep winning games on a consistent basis.
You know what's interesting about that? I guess I didn't put UC Saros in there because one of the games he had during the stretch against the Minnesota Wild was one of those he really didn't play well, and everyone during that game was starting to question, was he still not that good? But also an interesting thing about that, and I kind of realized just now, but I kind of felt that way if you really think about it. Before November 18th, when that stretch of games happened, Kevin Lankinen had started 2 games. Since November 18th, Kevin Lankinen started 4 games. So I guess, what does that really say? I mean, obviously not taking away from anything from Juice. He's played much better lately, but I think that also has done his fair share.
I think we've always speculated that if Saros, if he doesn't get completely ran into the ground, and if he's gets some breathers here and there, and if he can have these 5 or 6 day stretches every now and then when the schedule works out that way where he can get a rest, I think that's a great thing mentally for someone like Saros, or any goalie for that matter. But you look at it here, Predators are going into a back-to-back, so obviously we're going to see Kevin Lankinen in one of these upcoming games this weekend, whether that's against – I would expect to see Saros on Friday against the Hurricanes, and then you see Lankinen on Saturday against the Washington Capitals. That's what I would expect. But Saros has already had a 3-day break here, so that's a good break for him already, just how the schedule worked. So – I think the way the schedule is working out right now, Saros is getting plenty of rest, and they're managing his starts a little bit better right now. And so I think a fresh Saros is great for everybody, and we can trust Lankinen when he has to step in.
Yeah. The Predators have been known to have one of the better 1-2 punches in net, and they're finally using it to their advantage in these past few weeks.
So we got it on the screen there for all of our live stream viewers on YouTube and X, and also on Facebook. Best records in the NHL since the Preds won over the Blackhawks on November 18th. The reason why that date is so significant is because the Predators I just double checked, they were in last place with the Blackhawks on that date going into that game. We're almost a month after that now. A month later, the Predators are 11-3-0 with 22 points. That's the most wins in the NHL over that span. Also the most points over that span in the NHL. Some other teams that are playing pretty well right now. This one kind of surprised me because it's not a team I really focus on a lot. The New York Islanders during that same stretch.
Me, and I didn't realize that until just now.
They are 9-1-2 over that same stretch. So I would put them right there with the Predators in that regard. for 20 points. So very interesting because I did not realize the Islanders were playing so well. So interesting stuff there. You've got the Vegas Golden Knights, who you would expect, but they're
the best.
They've got 4 overtime losses, so they're not crushing teams like they're used to. But they're 7-2-4 over that stretch for 18 points, and then the Avalanche are 8-4-2 over that stretch for 18 points, and they have the slim lead in the Central Division right now over the second place Winnipeg Jets. Another team that I didn't put on this list because during this stretch they lost their first 3 games, but since then they've won 8 games in a row, and they're playing. Well, let's see. They are playing. Oh, wow. And they're playing the Lightning tonight. And they're up 3-2 on the Lightning right now. Looks like they just won that game, actually.
The Jets?
So the Oilers have actually won 9 games in a row now.
Okay. Yeah, that's one of those teams that, like, everyone kind of had a feeling was going to get back into it because everyone knew they were not that bad the way as they started.
Yeah, so the Oilers have a 9-game winning streak now. So I don't think you can really top that. If we're arguing who is the hottest team in the NHL right now, I think we have to say the Oilers. Probably. Right now. You got a 9-game winning streak, and I think you saw it at the bottom of the screen, but I'll make sure I tell all of our podcast audio listeners right now, this one's really going to blow your mind. So over this 9-game winning streak that the Oilers have right now, they have outscored opponents. Are you ready for this? 42-14.
That's a football blowout in a game. I mean, that's crazy.
9-game winning streak for the Oilers. 42-14 is their scoring margin.
They're averaging.
That is not a typo.
They're averaging almost 5 goals a game.
They gave up 2 goals to the Lightning tonight. No, I'm sorry, 42-15. I shorted them. I shorted them. Okay. They're outscoring opponents 42-15 over this 9-game winning streak. So we're going to give the Oilers the crown on the hottest team in the NHL right now.
That is mind blowing.
I couldn't believe it. I had to keep making sure that was the correct. Let's see. The Maple Leafs have to go to overtime again. The interesting thing about the Maple Leafs, they don't make that list that we just had on the screen there.
That game.
I did not hear about it. Enlighten us. I see they lost in overtime to the Blue Jackets 6-5.
You don't know how Columbus was up 5-0 in that game. Toronto tied it all in the third period, by the way. All in the third period, They scored their 5 goals, and then Toronto then loses it in overtime.
I did not see that. That's bonkers right there.
I didn't watch it, but it was all over Twitter.
So the Maple Leafs, they go to another overtime game. The Leafs just keep going to overtime here. They have tons of overtime losses. They've got a lot of wins in overtime and shootouts as well. So interesting stuff there. Let's see some other notes here on this Thursday. The team the Predators are about to play, they will be on the back end of a back-to-back, but they beat the Red Wings 2-1. That is the Carolina Hurricanes. John Hines' Minnesota Wild beats the Flames in a shootout. The Blues, they just fired their head coach, but they get the win over the Senators 4-3. Kraken's beating the Blackhawks right now, and the Canucks are beating the Panthers 2-0 right now. So there's your scores. But back to the hottest teams. I think if we take out the Oilers, I would have to say the Preds are probably one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now. Yeah, if not the second hottest team. I would say second hottest.
For sure. Again, whether you want to go best, second best, whatever, they're definitely top 3 hottest teams right now.
Going back to the Islanders, who are also up there 9-1-2 over that stretch. They've got back-to-back overtime wins over Toronto and LA Kings right now. So that's 2 really impressive wins for the Islanders back-to-back.
Yeah, no slouches whatsoever.
Give them the props. How about the LA Kings, a team that really people are falling in love with? They went through a stretch where they won 8 of 9 games, but the Kings are on a current 3-game losing streak, so they've cooled off a little bit.
I still think they're legit. They're a legit team, and everyone expected them to be.
For sure. And that's the thing. See, people freak out all the time when the Predators lose like 2 games in a row or 3 in a row, and they're like, oh, told you so. This team sucks. Like, fire everybody. And I'm like, guys, you do realize that even the best teams in this league go through short little losing streaks. The thing you can't let happen is you can't let those losing streaks turn into the 5, 6, and 7 game losing streaks.
Yeah, I mean, there's 82 games in
That's
the
when
year,
the season
so,
gets away from you.
They're going to happen.
Yeah. So very fair to say that the Predators are one of the hottest teams in the NHL right now, and they get the Hurricanes on the back end of a back-to-back. The Hurricanes have been a very big disappointment so far this year.
They have.
But
yeah,
I feel like they are kind of a sleeping giant. Let's just keep that in mind.
You can never count them out. Anytime you're playing Carolina, you really don't look at the standings. You just assume you're playing a really good team.
We got some friends in the comments here. Mike Twitter, a friend of the show, referring to the Oilers right now. He says, quote, "They'll blow it in the playoffs. Major League's Randy Quaid," in response to Oilers' current success. Yeah, that's a good movie reference there from Mike Twitter. So, we got Lindsay in the chat as well. And those are all – that's who we got in the chat right now. So, hello, Mike Twitter, and hello to Lindsay. Thanks for joining episode 213 with us. All right, so let's do the weekend review. Max, Predators had to win in an ugly fashion, but it's still 2 points. They beat the Flyers. I think that was on Tuesday, if I'm not
It was.
Not mistaken.
Yeah, I was in attendance.
That game for me, well, let's ask you first because you were at the game. What was your overall takeaway from that performance?
I thought it was certainly a lucky win. I didn't think the Preds looked that great really all night. I thought passes really were not connecting. They had a lot of turnovers. I thought it really felt off for most of the game. The Flyers in the third period had what most people thought was a BS goal. It was off the rush of I think they got a high stick on Gus Nyquist or something. Something should have been called. Anyway, after that, the Preds kind of came back and really kind of took it to them for a few minutes, and that was really the best stretch of the game. And then they score a few seconds into overtime after Forsberg shoots, and it's loose, and he tucks it in. And so Preds got the win, but ultimately it wasn't one of those games where I look at and like, he got lucky. But hey, it's one of those games where, as we kind of talked about the other night after the Canadiens game, where teams just like the Preds finding ways to win no matter what when they're hot. And that, speaks to the character of the whole team sometimes. When you don't play your best hockey, sometimes it still says a lot when you can find a way to get the wins. And the Preds found a way to do that. So, certainly happy to get the 2 points. But overall, as far as how the team played throughout the whole game, it felt like the Preds were going to blow it, and they did, but luckily they didn't end up losing the game. So
to kind of jump off of that real quick, here's what's refreshing about it. If this Preds team can start winning games even when they're not at their best, I'm not saying I want that to become a habit, but every now and then it's not going to be your best. It's hockey. You're going to have your off nights every now and then. If you can still find ways to win games like that, that's the mark of a team that's getting better and better, and that's the mark of a team that's going to definitely put up 90-plus points, have a strong chance to qualify for the Stanley Cup playoffs. You're going to win in consistent basis, definitely on nights. If you're not getting blown out when you're having an off night, that's a good sign that this team is really starting to gel, and they're really starting to find ways to win. I mean, that goes across all sports. And again, that doesn't mean you go to the locker room and you pat yourself on the back or anything like that. It just means that, we had an off night, but we figured out a way to grind it out. And we got to make sure we don't let this become a habit, because if we let this become a habit, and then there's going to be nights where the opposition makes us pay. The Flyers left a lot on the table in that game. So if anything, the Flyers should have gone to the locker room after that game thinking, wow, we really let that one get away from us. So really tough loss for the Flyers, because they probably should have won that game. But if you're the Predators, you say, hey, we didn't have our best stuff tonight, but we found a way to win. Our team leader, Philip Forsberg, our guy that's really leading the way right now, what a veteran-savvy goal from him. And it just once again shows that the dude is completely locked in. He's on a mission. What he's doing is way more impressive right now than even his 2021-22 season when he almost passed Duchesne and they were going tit for tat, scoring goals left and right. But I think what he's doing now is more impressive because he's just more of a well-rounded player right now. I mean, he's
I completely agree.
Leading this team.
This is the best I've ever seen him distribute the puck for sure.
He could
And
have.
you
He
see it a
could have
lot, especially on the power
easily.
play.
He could have easily just skated past the goalie, assuming that the puck's covered, and been like, we'll get him next time, type of thing. And he was looking to see if that puck was still loose, and he sticks his stick right in those pads, and it's a fair play. The puck's not covered. The goalie doesn't have it secured. He has a right for that puck. The referee had not blown the whistle, and he squeaks it in there. I mean, that is just – and that's something that any young hockey player can learn from. Don't ever give up on the play until that whistle's blown, and that's exactly what Forsberg did, and that's why he got the overtime goal. And really cool, interesting note for franchise history, if you missed it, another David Legwand franchise record, RIP to another record by David Legwand. Overtime goals, I should say, in franchise history. Forsberg gets his 10th of his career, and that passes David Legwand for another franchise lead for Philip Forsberg.
Yeah, much deserved for Phil. Absolutely. He's been a great player this year, and you can just tell in the past year, especially with the year that he had under Hines before as a free agent, and this year, I mean, he's one of the better wingers in the league for sure.
Yep. So that's 15 goals on the season for Forsberg. Also had an assist in this game on the Gus Nyquist goal.
It was a good one.
Carrier had an assist in this game. Luke Shin gets his first point as a Predator. Good for him.
That was a interesting one. It was it was off the delayed penalty. He kind of shot it from the blue line. It didn't make it on goal, but Michael McCarron got it right then and put it in. And credit to Andrew Brunette. He the other day he scratches Philip Tomasino in favor of Mike McCarron, and everyone's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" But McCarron scores a goal, so another credit to Andrew Brunette for a good lineup decision that night. It paid off.
Yeah. Love what I'm seeing from just everyone up and down the lineup, whether it's the fourth line, the third line, it doesn't matter. Everyone's just pulling the rope right now. It's great to see.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff there. So the Predators do manage to get the win. Going to have to play much better, most likely against the Hurricanes on Friday night. Yep. Going back to UC Saros in this game, another great performance from him with 37 saves on 39 shots faced.
Absolutely.
.949 save percentage in that one. The Preds penalty kill comes up huge in this one as well. Left the Flyers to 0 for 4. I think their Preds are 19 out of their last 20 or something like that on the penalty kill.
Something close. I mean,
it's something close to that.
It's been lights out. Yeah.
Something close to that. The Preds are finally completely healthy right now. Or core injuries.
Yeah, no, they finally, especially with Glass and Novak getting healthy recently, they've kind of returned to that full health. So that's really good to see. And you hope, you're not going to go, of course, you're not going to go the whole rest of the year without nothing happening. You're going to get at very least guys out, day-to-day injuries, stuff like that. But it's good to see the Preds are starting to, you just hope that other long-term injuries like Forsberg's concussion last year don't happen again. But, injury is part of the game. And right whenever your team's fully healthy, you got to enjoy the moment.
And you had Tyson Barrie as a healthy scratch in this game.
Yeah.
As they keep sorting out the decor. So let's see. It'll be really, I would assume that Tyson Barrie gets back into the lineup against the Hurricanes. I would rather have a more offensive-minded defenseman going up against a offensively prolific team like the Hurricanes, because I feel like the Preds are going to have to put up some goals, like 3 or 4 goals at least. Against the Hurricanes. We'll see.
The Capitals kind of that way too, especially with the Capitals kind of offensively prolific too. I mean, especially how they're coached, the players they got. I mean, you definitely think Barrie at least plays one game.
Yeah, you would expect that. And I know it's getting really dramatic with the Barrie thing. We're not going to really dive too much into it because we've already done it the last 2 episodes and not a lot has changed since that. Yeah. But I will say it's definitely dramatic right now, and there's a lot of drama involved just because Tyson Barrie wants to play, and you understand that from his perspective. But we'll have to keep an eye on that for sure. But that's definitely going to remain a storyline there. So that's your weekend review. Like I said, the Predators are getting a little time off this week and a few days off here the last couple of days. I did see that the Predators had an optional skate today, an optional practice, and apparently a lot of the players went to it. Almost all of them. I think they decided that we're practicing today, which you'd love to see that as well.
I love it.
All right, we're about to move along here in Catfish and Ice. This is episode 213 with your host, Chad Minton, and also Max Greenberg is with me, my co-host. We're going to tell you about our sponsor, and that is DraftKings right now. Bet the action on the ice with DraftKings Sportsbook. You've got a pretty big NHL slate tomorrow. I'm going to pull that up real quick and let you know what some of the lines are looking like on the DraftKings Sportsbook app for tomorrow with our promo code THPN. You can get in on some action tomorrow night on a Friday night, December 15th. Let's look at some of these matchups. So we just talked about the Islanders are one of the hottest teams in the league right now, along with the Predators. You got the Boston Bruins at the Islanders. That'd be a matchup I'd like to check out. I'd like to see what these Islanders are all about. I know the Islanders have a really, really great goalie in Ilya Sorokin. So that's one thing that that they got going for them. But right now, the Islanders are the favorites, according to DraftKings, slightly, ever so slightly. Preds and Hurricanes, the matchup where you just talked about there. The Hurricanes are very heavy favorites at home against the Predators. Shouldn't be too surprised there. Let's see, another matchup that really sticks out to me. Not a heavy NHL slate tomorrow, but we do have the Ducks and the Rangers are tomorrow as well. Ducks are heavy underdogs against the Rangers at Madison Square Garden. You got the Stars at home taking on the Senators. The Stars are your favorites there. And the Coyotes are at home against the Sharks. And the Golden Knights take on the Sabres, and they are heavy favorites. So a lot of heavy favorites tomorrow. So if you're feeling like living a little dangerously tomorrow, maybe take a shot with one of these underdogs tomorrow night, and maybe you can really get the odds in your favor. Maybe take on the San Jose Sharks. They've been playing a lot better lately.
A little bit better.
Maybe take your shot. Maybe that'd be completely insane to ever bet money on the Sharks. I don't know how you want to look at that.
Maybe I'm a little biased, but are the Preds getting slept on a little bit, being such heavy underdogs against the Hurricanes? I mean, they're fairly similar.
They're getting slept on a little bit. I do.
Yeah,
I think they're getting slept on a little bit. I mean, it's fair to say.
Maybe a little slept on.
I don't know. I think you could have some fun taking one of those underdogs on this Friday night. So either way, look into that with our promo code THPN. Download the app now and use code THPN. New customers can get $150 instantly in bonus bets for betting just $5 on hockey. That's code THPN only on DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NHL. The crown is yours. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.1800gambler.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPENY or text HOPENY. That's 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available. For problem gambling, call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly on behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort. 21 plus. Age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/hockey for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources. NHL and the NHL Shield are registered trademarks of the National Hockey League. Copyright NHL 2023, all rights reserved. Let's get into our next topic here. Talking about the Preds being one of the hottest teams in the NHL. You okay back there, Max? I hear some craziness going on.
I'm good.
You're good?
My computer's getting a little hot, so that might be what you're hearing a little bit.
I think you're just excited about the next segment here. All right, so I know people are going to be like, oh, why are we already talking about this? There's so much hockey left. I get that, but I love hypothetical conversations sometimes. So let's size up the Predators if they were in a 7-game series, because a 7-game series, we know it is a battle of attrition. It is not like beating a team one time and getting lucky or getting a fluke win. No, to beat a team 4 out of 7 times, you got to truly be the better team in the matchup. And we don't know if the Predators are even going to make the playoffs necessarily. There's so much hockey left. But just hypothetically speaking, Max.
Yep.
Do you think that this current Preds roster and the way they're playing and the positive signs that they're showing, do you think that that could actually translate well to having success in a 7-game series? I know it depends on the opponent and who you draw, but just overall speaking, I'll start first and then we'll go to you. But I just want to say real quick, I think that the depth that's really showing up for this team is what gives me the most optimism that they could actually make a 7-game series pretty interesting against a lot of Western Conference teams right now. I'll just start with that.
I certainly think that, with the way the Preds are playing right now, if they carry this into the playoffs, it's going to be hard for anything to beat them as well as they're playing right now. As far as the teams that are in the playoffs, I still think a lot of the teams in the playoffs, like, for example, Vegas, I wouldn't give us much of a chance against Vegas. They're obviously defending Cup champions. They still have virtually the same team. They're really good. I think Dallas is also really deep. They have a lot of talent. I would not want to see Dallas in a playoff. Colorado, maybe. They're not the most deep of teams, and they also lost in the first round last year. They don't have Gabriel Landeskog, so I think that's the potential. I wouldn't necessarily say I'd pick us. I think if we drew maybe LA, that's potentially a team because they don't have the goaltending that we have.
Yeah, I disagree.
You disagree with that one?
I think if we're just looking at opponents, first of all, do we think the Predators could actually finish top 3 in the division? Do you think that's even a realistic expectation right now?
I think so. I think they could. I think they could. I could see us passing Winnipeg, especially now that Kyle Connor is going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, yeah, that's a significant.
That's going to hamper them. That'll definitely hurt them a little bit. But
I mean, you look at the Central Division right now, obviously with so much time left. I mean, we're still like 12 games away from even being at the midway point. But I mean, the Predators are right there. I mean, they're only 3. I mean, I know they got a couple games extra played on Dallas, but they're 3 points behind Dallas right now. Dallas has kind of gone through a little mini slump of their own lately. They haven't been looking as dominant, but I will say going up against Dallas in a 7-game series would
not be ideal. Would not be ideal.
It'd probably be a 6-game series, probably.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
See, I'm leaning towards, who I would love to see in a first round, and I would give the Predators a really good chance to take it to 7 and then take it to game 7, and then it's anybody's game. Let's see who wins game 7. I would give the Predators a decent puncher's chance to beat Winnipeg in a 7-game series.
I think so. That's the one team I would feel the most confident in for sure. That's one team.
And for that to happen, you would either need the Predators to finish in the top 3, or, if Winnipeg gets a wild card spot, then you could, you would have to face. It would be hard for the Preds and Winnipeg to face off in a first round series unless Dallas were to fall out of the top 3 or Colorado to fall out of the top 3, and that seems very unlikely. You got to expect both Dallas and Colorado to be in the top 3, which would mean that either Nashville or Winnipeg or maybe even Arizona. I don't want to completely just dismiss Arizona,
right? But
it would probably come down to Nashville or Winnipeg for that 3rd spot in the division.
Yep, I
if
agree.
We want to just get our crystal ball out.
Yep.
So I give Nashville a really good chance to beat Winnipeg in the Pacific Division, a 7-game series. I don't know. Do we think that Vancouver could be a little bit fraudulent, or do you think they're legit, like as good as they've been in the early season?
They're certainly offensively prolific, and we know they have a good goaltender. So
they've come back down to reality a little bit recently.
That's one where I'm like, that's one that I'm kind of with you. I'm like, I don't know what. Yeah, I don't really know what Vancouver is. We really got to see. That's one of those teams where, like, you honestly, it's kind of unfair for teams like that. But that's one of those teams where you really got to go through the full end of the year to really believe it, what we're seeing right now.
Mike says on Twitter, if we're in at the deadline, Trotz is going to make a move to make us better too. Oh, we got plenty of time to speculate on what we think Trotz will do when we get close to the trade deadline.
Yeah.
But he's got the cap space. We'll just leave it at that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's a lot of teams don't. A lot of teams who are going to be playoff contenders do not have cap space.
The Preds are going to be one of the teams with the most to money to play around with at the trade deadline. Yeah. So just get ready for that.
That's going to be interesting.
But a lot of time before we can really speculate too much on that. But looking at the Pacific Division, Vegas would be a terrible matchup.
Yeah, we get spanked.
I think the Preds would be lucky I think it would be a hard-fought and great, successful, pat yourself on the back if the Preds were to take Vegas to 6 games. That's how much.
Agreed. Yeah, Vegas.
I think I'm not a true believer in Vancouver yet. I think they've come back down to reality a little bit. The only thing that would scare me in a 7-game series against Vancouver is they do have plenty of scorers, but is this Thatcher Demko's like breakout, like arrival year? We've always known he's a great goalie and he's, one of the better ones, but this might be his true, like Vezina, like I would say he's the Vezina trophy winner right now. If you picked a Vezina winner today, if you run into Thatcher Demko in a 7-game series, he's one of those goalies with the way he's playing right now, where the Preds could throw everything in the kitchen sink at him and he just stops everything. And it's like Preds did everything they could, but Thatcher Demko was better. I mean, that would be the scary thing about a matchup with Vancouver.
I mean, he's finally getting help now. He hasn't gotten help hardly his whole career. So you're seeing what he's doing with that help.
Yeah. So I think it's still considered who would you face off if you're the Preds. I still don't think they're quite there yet to realistically say we're ready to get out of the first round. I think we still got to see this roster grow and evolve a lot more. The one thing I do have, like I said, that makes me really optimistic is this team does have depth. Now, is that depth going to show up in a playoff series in crunch time? That's something you just don't know until it happens. Right. Yeah. But the way they're playing right now, they're playing playoff style hockey right now with the way that they're getting contributions all up and down the lineup. That gives me a lot of optimism right now.
Yeah. Like I say, if the Preds continue playing like they are right now, it's going to be hard for any team to just outright kill them.
And let's say the penalty kill ends up really becoming a strength. Let's say they keep carrying this over, and this isn't just some small little stretch where they're playing well, but no, they actually turn it into a major strength. You got to have a great penalty kill in the playoffs to win in the playoffs consistently. Because you're going to have that can be the ultimate series flipper when you become a great penalty kill. If you can neutralize another team's power play in a 7-game series, that takes all the wind out of that team's sails. And odds are, no matter who you're facing in the playoffs, they've probably got a prolific top 10 power play. That's almost a guarantee. Very rarely. I can remember the last few playoffs. Whenever you're watching a playoff matchup, most of the time it's a battle between two teams that have top 10 power plays. Almost always. It just seems like a common theme. So if I give the Predators no chance of beating anybody in a first-round series if the penalty kill regresses back to what they were a couple weeks ago. They'll get beat by anybody they go up against. That's the one area that I think that they've really been working on and they've shown improvement in. That's another area. If they become really strong in that department, then that's another reason why I think they could maybe steal a first-round series this year if they're really doing well in that area.
And not only that, but at least in the past, really recent few games, the Preds have been kind of racking up the penalties. They calmed down the penalties they're taking, which is always a discussion with the Preds. But if they go from like 4 or 5 to like maybe 2 or 3 penalties a game, that could be a big difference, especially with how well it's playing.
Definitely. So obviously a lot more has to happen. We're just giving you an early outlook this far out to think about this team. Let's move along here and get to our last Preds segment of the night here on episode 213 of Catfish and Ice. Also wanted to remind everyone, after we finish this live portion, you will hear my interview with Greg Amundsen of Puck Luck Analytics. I did an interview with him a couple days ago earlier this week, and he really gave me the rundown through his analytics and his models on why the Predators are having so much success this year. The dude is such a genius, and you really got to follow him on social media and check out his stuff. This guy is brilliant with his analytics and the way he covers hockey and the way he covers each team. And when just to give you a little bit of a preview, one of the things he told me that the reason why the Predators are excelling so well this year and doing as good as they are and outperforming expectations. First, he said the Predators are outperforming his preseason expectations from his models. Also, the reason why the Preds are really excelling at 5-on-5 hockey with their expected goals. And we've kind of talked about that. We've touched on that. We know the Predators are top 10 in the league in expected goals for. And early in the season, the Preds took some losses because they weren't finishing. But now they've been finishing a little bit better. But, he had a lot of really good things to say about the Predators. And also in the conversation, we talked about Ryan O'Reilly and Philip Forsberg. We talked about Colton Sissons. We threw in some other players down the list. We even talked Roman Josi a little bit. We talked about his standings projections right now and where he's got the Predators finishing in the standings in terms of points, total points in the standings. A lot of good stuff. So that interview is going to be after the live portion on the podcast platform. So make sure you stay tuned for that if you're listening right now. All right. So been thinking about Ryan O'Reilly a lot in terms of how he was acquired over the offseason and just how quickly he has impressed everyone. There wasn't really a learning curve period for him here. He scored in his first Preds game. He scored a power play goal at Tampa. 7 power play goals on the season. So I went back and I wanted to compare him to some other big offseason acquisitions and how they did in their first year in a Preds uniform. How about we start with the one it's on everybody's mind, and that's Matt Duchene.
Yep. I mean, I think
Matt Duchene was signed.
Sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I guess the only thing I was going to say really quick was going to say, I mean, I certainly think if it continues going on the way it is, certainly going to be better than that first season.
Yeah, so let's look at Matt Duchene's first season. He came in with so much pressure to begin with because no one liked the contract to begin with. Matt Duchene signed for $8 million a year. He's always been a polarizing player everywhere he's played. We know that. But first year for Matt Duchene with the Preds, 29 years old. For comparison, since we're comparing it to Ryan O'Reilly's first season, Ryan O'Reilly comes in at age 32 for the Preds. So a couple years older than when Matt Duchene came in. Let's give you Ryan O'Reilly's current stats real quick with the Preds this year. 12 goals, 11 assists for 23 points, 20 minutes of ice time. And really, Ryan O'Reilly's biggest impact, other than intangibles and on-ice leadership, is what he's doing for the power play. Ryan O'Reilly's got 11 power play points, including 7 power play goals for the Preds right now. All right, let's go back now. I just wanted to lay out the groundwork so we can talk about Matt Duchene. Matt Duchene was 29 years old when he signed with Nashville, was coming off a 70-point season with Columbus and Ottawa. Played a very short amount of time with Columbus, played with them during their Stanley Cup run. Signed for $8 million a year, which was already a huge eyesore for the fan base. Before he even played a game for the Predators, he was already being criticized because of that contract.
Right.
But here's where it gets ugly. And here's where the honeymoon didn't last very long for Matt Duchene in Nashville. 42 points in 66 games in his first season in Nashville.
And not many goals to show, and not many of them were goals at all. At all.
He dropped from a 70-point season to a 42-point season. Yeah, that's a huge drop-off, dude. Yeah. That's almost a 50% drop-off.
Yeah, it's not great. And, a lot of, there were also, I remember a handful of people who were like, yeah, this is a really good fit. We need a second center. And, Duchene, he's always wanted to be here. He's going to play his heart out. But man, it just didn't, especially in that first year, it just did not work out.
He also had his third lowest point per game total of his NHL career up to that point. It's bad. Yeah. Now, luckily, Duchesne did make up for it a couple seasons later with when everyone was ready to just ship him off and he went through the expansion draft unprotected and no one took him. Things could not be worse in terms of Matt Duchesne and the Predators. And then he goes off and proceeds to set the new single season franchise record for goals in a season and puts up 80 plus points. So it just goes to show you never know what's going to happen. But we're just talking about first seasons in Nashville and how did it go? It did not go pretty for Matt Duchesne in his first season in a Preds uniform.
Yeah, pretty forgettable, honestly. And hate to use that term, but man, I think pretty much everyone, including him, probably wants to forget that first season happened.
Let's go to PK Subban.
Yeah.
In his first season with the Preds. I remember where I was when I found out the news that Subban was signed. And I wasn't writing about the Preds at that point. I was just a fan. Didn't cover them at all in any capacity. But I just remember being at home and scrolling around on ESPN or the sports different sites, and it was just all over the news. Shea Weber traded for PK Subban, and it was almost like I wanted to get excited because I knew how big time of a player Subban was and how huge that would be for the Nashville market to get a player of his stature. But then I thought, no, not for Shea Weber. Like, I didn't know how to feel. I was so confused. I was so speechless. I wanted to be excited, but then I also wanted to be sad at the same time. I didn't know how to feel about it, but definitely the biggest trade in Nashville Predators history, I would have to argue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
100%. To this day, I don't even know really who won that trade. I feel like neither team really won the trade because Shea Weber had all of his injury problems and never really played as long as he wanted to for the Canadiens. And then Subban, which we're about to talk about, yes, he had a big impact on that Stanley Cup team that went to the Stanley Cup, but then he was pretty much gone after that. He didn't really do much for the team after that.
He was actually a Norris finalist the year after. I thought he had a good second year. The first and third regular seasons though were not as great as you would hope though. The second year I actually thought he was near lights out, but the first and third years were not what you would have wanted.
Yeah, he just didn't stick around in Nashville as long as you would have thought after that. Nope. But looking at his season there, his first season with Nashville after the trade with Shea Weber, Subban was 27 years old, one of the most high-profile players. I remember he went to Broadway and sang karaoke at Tootsie's, like his first day in Nashville, walking across the pedestrian bridge. This guy embraced the city immediately.
Oh, yeah.
So, thank you. First of all, thank you for mentioning that, Max, because I did forget about that. I'll be completely honest that Subban was a Norris finalist the year after with alongside Drew Doughty of the Kings and, of course, Victor Hedman won the Norris Trophy for the Tampa Bay Lightning. So good catch on that one, Max. I being dead honest, I totally forgot about that.
He had a really good second year, but the other ones were not, especially that final because unlike the first year where he had the Stanley Cup run to kind of say, yeah, I really was worth it, that third year, his final year in Nashville was a bit rough, I'll be honest.
Well, and he never really got back to being his – that was his last big-time year in the NHL was that Norris finalist year. Because then I think he ended up where did he go after that? Didn't he go to New Jersey, I think, for a little bit?
And I don't even know if he went anywhere after. I think he might have retired after that, to be honest.
Yeah. So looking at his first season with Nashville, though, 27 years old, he put up 40 points for 66 games, over 24 minutes of average ice time, 104 blocks. That's a lot of blocks. 78 hits. He had a -8 plus-minus. But in those playoffs, part of the Stanley Cup run, he had 12 points in 22 games and upped his ice time to 25.5 per game. So he played a lot of minutes during that.
That is a lot of minutes.
Overall, you can call his first season in Nashville a success, I would say, though.
Yep.
He played his part.
Yep.
Here's another one. First of all, as you're seeing on this list, the Preds have not had a lot of big-time acquisitions over the offseason. A lot of their acquisitions in their history have come at the trade deadline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you really go back and look at it. But how about the real deal James Neal? A little bit
Oh, yeah.
smaller profile player than Ryan O'Reilly, maybe. But I remember when James Neal came to the Predators because I knew he was coming from the Pittsburgh Penguins, a team that won a Stanley Cup. So I was pretty excited about getting James Neal at the time. Signed with Nashville at age 27. He was 2 years removed from an 87-point season with the Penguins. Preds traded for Neal in the summer of 2014 and took on his $5 million a year salary, which for 2014, that was a pretty hefty salary. Not so much now, but in 2014, that was up there.
Yeah.
In that trade, they traded away Patrick Hornqvist and Nick Spaulding and another drop-off for a first-year Predator. Neal dropped off from 61 points to 37 points in his first year with Nashville. Biggest reason for his drop-off in points was he had no power play presence with Nashville in that first year, whereas the season before with Pittsburgh, 26 power play points. So not really sure. I can't remember exactly how good Nashville's power play was during that time, but that was something you were hoping James Neal would have made an impact on at $5 million a year, and I guess he had no impact whatsoever on the Preds
especially
power
with how many goals he scored, especially in that second year. I can't remember any of the other years off the top of my head, but that second year he was on the team, he scored over 30 goals.
Yeah. So I think what we're seeing here is a lot of times, at least, sometimes that first year even for a great talented player, sometimes it takes us some time for a player to really get comfortable and get into their system. And that's why it's kind of so impressive what we're seeing with Ryan O'Reilly here. I mean, the guy just fit right in and just really started making an impact like he's been on this team for years. That's kind of what's so amazing about what Ryan O'Reilly's doing right now.
Yeah, and it also kind of speaks to the system on the team as well, the offensively inclined system. And Peter Laviolette had that too, also with James Neal. But something about this just kind of feels different. I mean, maybe it just speaks also to the player O'Reilly, as O'Reilly just might have that it factor about him.
For sure. Definitely. All right. I'm about to give you one here that will probably never be topped. I don't think Ryan O'Reilly is going to top this one for his first year as a Pred. If he does, then this team's definitely about to go some special places if Ryan O'Reilly surpasses this player's first year as a Predator. That's one of the best players in the franchise history, even though he was only here for 2 seasons. Paul Kariya is probably the biggest offseason acquisition in the franchise's history, and he absolutely delivered in his first year with the Predators. Think about this. Paul Kariya was signed with Nashville in the offseason of 2005, making $4.5 million.
Which is a lot
almost 20
then.
years ago. Almost 20 years ago, $4.5 million for a season was a lot of money.
Yeah. I didn't watch when that was happening, but everyone raves about Paul Kariya. He was one of the true offensive talents this team ever had.
And I like I know they're not exactly the same style player, but I do like the comparison of Paul Kariya to Ryan O'Reilly. And I also realize that Ryan O'Reilly is significantly less paid by the scale to what Paul Kariya was making at that time. I get all that. So it's not an exact comparison, but Paul Kariya comes in at age 31. O'Reilly's 32. So two veterans who were past their primes a little bit. But you look at Kariya's first season with Nashville. He played in all 82 games, 31 goals, 54 assists for 85 points, which was the franchise record for a long time, up until when Roman Josi finally passed him to get 96 points in the 2021-22 season.
Yeah, I mean...
So, 85 points in his first season with Nashville. Third most in team history right now. Preds, during that first season with the Preds finished second in the division with 106 points, but lost in the first round to the San Jose Sharks. So, probably safe to say Ryan O'Reilly's not going to hit 87 points this year. Probably not going to happen unless he just really ramps up his point production. But I think
it's unlikely, but you never know.
I think Ryan O'Reilly's got a great chance to have the second best year ever for a first year Predator coming out of an offseason. I definitely think that. And right now, that pickup by Barry Trotz looks extremely, extremely well. A great decision by Barry Trotz. And it's looking like a bargain.
Yeah. And honestly, it kind of speaks to, the culture shift that, Barry wanted to have, because when he bought out Duchesne the day before, everyone's like, what are you doing? How is this worth it? How can you make the team pay this much for a guy who's not playing? But he wanted to bring in a guy like O'Reilly, and it just feels like so different that, Duchesne wanted to, be the guy that retires here, all that kind of stuff. But O'Reilly is just like the kind of the down-to-earth kind of cocky culture guy. And it just seems that, not everyone, even myself, I was kind of like, I don't know if O'Reilly's great and all, but, I don't know if I really want, a contract like that, especially with the youth, especially because you're kind of between Cody Glass and Tommy Novak. You were definitely handcuffing one of them, but O'Reilly's been outstanding. You can't say enough good things about him.
Yeah. O'Reilly just did an interview recently talking about how he decided between Toronto and why he decided to go to Nashville and all of that. Yeah. And it was, Nick Alberga. I think everyone knows him. Works for Sportsnet, NHL Fantasy, Sirius XM. Nick Alberga on his show on YouTube. He interviewed. It's up on my Twitter if you want to go check it out. But he interviewed Ryan O'Reilly. It's really a great interview to go watch, everybody. Really highly recommend it. But O'Reilly in this interview talks about why he didn't re-sign in Toronto, and without throwing too much shade at Toronto, he did kind of hint at all the rumors were true, that he just didn't want to be a part of that crazy culture that Toronto has.
Yeah.
And he kind of went with Nashville because he wanted to go to a place where he basically says in this interview, I felt like I still have a lot to give to a team, and I wanted to go to a team that wants me and that needs me. And that's why he chose Nashville. You got to love that as a fan when you hear a player say that. When you hear a veteran say, I still have a lot to give and I want to go to a team that wants me, that's great stuff right there.
I mean, and he also, it was known from the moment that he signed in Nashville that money was not the issue. That was not the reason he did not want to sign in Toronto. And, whether it was, saying that he thought our culture under Barry Trotz was really good, or that Toronto's culture, what they have, is really bad, it was a telling thing, and it seems to hold true. It didn't seem like they were just clickbait rumors. It seemed like he really thought that we had something that Toronto did not.
Yeah. I mean, when you get a player of Ryan O'Reilly's stature, everything he's accomplished in this game, over 1,000 games now in the league, and he chooses Nashville over Toronto, that's crazy for me to think about, honestly. I still can't believe it that he chose the Predators over the Maple Leafs. That's a huge testament to Barry Trotz and the respect that Barry Trotz has. I think that's a huge testament to some of the players that are already on the Predators that he wanted to come play with, including Yossi, including Saros, including Forsberg. I mean, it's just amazing. I still can't get over it. And so I really hope we do him right and he has a big time year. So we'll keep watching to see Ryan O'Reilly and what he does. I didn't want to leave out this one player real quick. Just wanted to brush over it. Another big-time first-year player in the franchise's history, going way back in the time machine. We need Johnny for this one. Jason Arnott was another big offseason addition, was also 32 years old when he was brought on for the Predators, same age as O'Reilly, also made $4.5 million. This was the year after Correa was signed to the Predators. So this was a little time stretch where David Poile was all in. He was ready for the Preds to start winning playoff series. He was like, we have arrived. We've been in the league for several years now. We're finally starting to make the playoffs. We're going to go start getting ourselves some big fish in the pond in the offseason. Went out and got Jason Arnott, another great NHL player, veteran, and another drop-off, though. seeing a major theme here in big-time free agents coming to Nashville and then dropping off.
Yeah,
Arnett went from 76 points with Dallas the year before and dropped to 54 points with the Preds. Most of his stats declined in the assist category. Also, Arnett did not do much for the Preds in the playoffs that year, just 2 goals and 1 assist in 5 games. Nashville, for the second straight year, was eliminated in the first round by the San Jose Sharks. And Arnett also was not with the team for very long. So there's not a lot of great examples in Preds history of getting big fish in their offseason and them having big-time first years with the team. Just not a lot of good examples. Paul Kariya is really the only one you can find.
Arnett was a captain, though, for a few years, at least 1 year.
He was.
How many years was he the captain? I honestly don't remember. I thought it was at least one or two.
Maybe 1 or 2. It might have just been 1, honestly. I can't remember.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
All right. With that said, let's get to our last segment here of the podcast.
Forget one player? You forget Ryan Johansson.
Ryan Johansson wasn't acquired over the offseason.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I forgot. Yep, you're right.
Come on, you got to follow directions here, Max.
Yeah. I got a little.
He was traded for Seth Jones, but that was during the season.
Yeah, you're right about that.
We can look and see how he did. We can look and see how he did in his first full year. But I wanted to focus more on players who weren't acquired, or who were picked up in the offseason and got to go through a training camp and got to.
Yeah, you're right.
True. I almost put Ryan Johansson in there, and then I remembered that he was acquired during the season.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Real quick, let's touch on it. Matthew Wood and Tanner Molendyk are going to be playing at the World Juniors. We touched on it at the beginning of the episode. I'm really excited. I obviously want to see Matthew Wood, but I'm more excited to see Tanner Molendyk. This guy seems like, from all I've seen from scouts, he was a major steal for the Predators, and we got him as part of the trade was that the Tanner Jeannot trade?
No, it was Matthias.
Which trade was that? The Matthias Ekholm trade. Okay,
it was Matthias Ekholm.
Yep. Yeah. So I want to see what this kid's all about. I cannot wait to see. And the fact that he made Team Canada, even though he was hurt for a large portion of this development camp, that says a lot about the talent that Tanner Molendyk has.
No, he seems like a very serious hockey player. That's for sure.
And I hear that he's got a lot of the same traits that Roman Josi has. A lot of speed, a lot of transition game, a lot of good puck vision.
Oh, yeah. You got to love that.
Matthew Wood's got a really good shot as well in the slot. Now, they've talked about that in the updates I've seen about Matthew Wood. Not sure if he's going to get significant minutes for Canada in this tournament. He might be like a third line or a fourth line player, but will still be all the same. Real quick, Tanner Molendyk this year is playing for the Saskatchewan Blades in the Western Hockey League, and he's got 28 points in 24 games for Saskatchewan. 10 penalty minutes, a plus 22 plus or minus.
Not bad.
Looks like Molendyk is going to easily surpass his career high in points for a season in the WHL. And he's currently in his 4th year in the WHL. So he is definitely trending up. Let's see how he does at the World Juniors. And then Matthew Wood, of course, is playing collegiately right now for the University of Connecticut. Who do you think we see first as far as joining the Predators down the road? Like, I'm talking like a couple seasons, obviously. That's a hard one, isn't it?
It's because I haven't really, I admit, fully just being transparent. I am not, someone who watches a ton of hockey beyond just the NHL. I'm mainly an NHL watcher. Of course, I will keep up with the Preds prospects, especially when they hit Milwaukee. But just, hearing, a lot of it also is not even just dependent on the players themselves. It's also dependent on the Preds as a team. And if you look at the Preds right now, especially on defense, of course, you got, guys, Carrier is going to be a free agent after this year. But even in the forwards, they're still forwards too. Like, Joachim Kemmel is supposed to come fairly soon. So you really never know, honestly. You got it.
I would say Tanner. I would lean.
That's when you just got to wait to see, honestly.
Yeah, but I mean, if I have to pick, though, and we're speculating here, I would lean towards Tanner Mollendijk wears a Preds uniform before
kind of the
Matthew
vibe I
Wood
was
does.
getting to. Yeah,
just because from what I understand, his ceiling is really high, and I think it's easier for a defenseman to push their way in than it is a right winger, especially because the Preds do have a lot of good wingers in the system right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I could see if assuming both players' development goes smoothly and they're both playing well, I think Mollendijk's path is probably a little bit more direct right now than Matthew Wood's. I could see Matthew Wood needing at least a year or two in Milwaukee, whereas I could see Mollendijk really taking off in Milwaukee and getting a call up mid-year. Not this year, but like down the road once he gets into Milwaukee for a little bit. So I would argue that Mollendijk has a shorter path, just as we're looking at it right now. Matthew Wood's got 7 goals and 5 assists in 17 games for the University of Connecticut so far this year. He's in his second collegiate season. So he's a ways off too, since he's still playing collegiately. So those college players take a little bit longer to get into the system.
They sure do. Absolutely.
Let's close out episode 213 with our Titans talk of the week. Max, he covers the Titans for Titan Sized. Titans come back as they were one of the. I think, did I see this correctly? They're the biggest underdog win of the NFL season. I thought I read that or heard that somewhere.
I don't know about that. I honestly forgot what the line was. But again, the stat I harp on is under 3 minutes left, down 14 since 2016, 0-767.
So, what do you think the key was to making that comeback? Do you think it was more the Dolphins just really wet the bed here and just took their foot off the gas, lost their mental focus, or do you think it was really Will Levis showing us that this dude is legit and the Titans have their franchise quarterback?
I don't want to, disappoint my fellow Titans fans here. I don't want to, I don't want to take anything away from Levis because he was phenomenal. It was his first 300-yard game, and he showed up when he had to. That man, like DeAndre Hopkins said the other night, that man played like a dog out there. But the Dolphins really, really, really blew that game. And
what were they doing? I didn't understand their play calling.
And here's one thing I also want to say to people, and I haven't heard this a ton, so I'm not saying this in the context of like, oh, this is the narrative, but it's easy to look at that game and say Tyreek Hill barely played. That's a big reason the Dolphins lost. That's a cop-out because while it definitely affects them, that's like saying the sky is blue. I can point to 5 different examples of why the Dolphins cost themselves that game that had nothing to do with Tyreek Hill. I mean, they fumbled the first red zone chance. Titans recovered. The Nico Autry got a field goal block for halftime. They challenged this catch that Tyjae Spears had in the third quarter. That cost him a timeout, and that certainly didn't help him at the end. Tua slipped and fell on another red zone chance in the fourth quarter. They go for a field goal, and then blowing the 14-point lead with 3 minutes left. It is not just Tyreek Hill's a great player, but man, they did not just lose because of him.
I thought what was really crazy was that last year, that drive where they could have run out a lot more clock, they took like some really safe, like passing plays, and they didn't really go anywhere. And I just thought they could have been more effective with running the ball a little bit more, and they could have chewed out some more clock and really made the Titans up against the clock a lot more. The Titans had plenty of time to run their offense, and credit to Will Levis for managing the game like he was a seasoned veteran in that situation. I mean, the way he was nickel and diming down the field and taking the right pass, not freaking out in the pocket. He hit DeAndre Hopkins on that crossing route, and he just put it right between the numbers, just popped it and led him down the field. He gets out of bounds. I mean, decision-making was just amazing, other than that one pick six he threw to open the game.
You're going to happen. It's rookie mistakes.
Yeah. But that's another thing. How impressive is it for a rookie quarterback like him to shrug that off and play the way he played the rest of the game? I mean, that's just amazing.
Yeah. And I will say, even more concerning than that pick, and again, he'll learn this because he's a rookie, but dude's got to learn to slide sometimes. There was one of the plays. Do you remember the play where he leaned his shoulder into Jalen Ramsey?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were looking at his shoulder at the end, and Vrabel was saying in the press conference this week he was going to show videos of guys getting the you-know-what knocked out of them when they don't slide. So, again,
it was funny.
He's a rookie, but, man, sometimes maybe he has too much juice in him. I mean, but, man, he, again, like everyone said, he was outstanding. And, that game, if it wasn't before, it pretty much solidified that the Titans are not going to be looking for a QB in the next draft.
That's the only thing we have to hang on to for this season is getting to watch Will Levis continue to play these games and grow. You want to talk about Titans fans giving up on this season? If they have to go back to Ryan Tannehill, and I'm not saying give up on the season like they have a chance to make the playoffs. I just mean like there will be fans out there, fair weather fans will say, I'm not watching any more Titans games this year. The only reason they're even watching right now is because they want to watch Will Levis. If this team has to go back to Ryan Tannehill to close out the season, oh my gosh. And no offense to Ryan Tannehill, but I think that ship has sailed.
Ryan Tannehill.
But that ship has sailed. It's over. I mean, he's pretty much gone, right? Like he's a free agent this year, isn't he?
Yeah, he's not coming back unless he signs as a backup, but I can't imagine that happening.
Yeah, I do really appreciate how positive he's been and motivating he's been on the sideline. Have you noticed? I've noticed that.
Yeah.
Anytime I've seen several occasions, several instances over the last few weeks. Anytime Will Levis does a positive play, makes a good play, is excited, he's up there like cheering with a very genuine smile on his face.
Yeah, in the first game, and when Levis went off against the Falcons for his 4-touchdown game, Tannehill was on the sideline, all smiles, encouraging him. You love to see that.
I mean, that's so awesome. That speaks to the true character of Ryan Tannehill.
And people will have misconceptions about Tannehill and stuff like that, but Tannehill is a really good dude, and the guy has guts like people rarely ever seen. Like that when he suffered the injury in London, the ankle injury, and he literally said he was trying to fight it out, and the only reason he stopped playing is he literally couldn't get pushed into his throws. But he literally said, the pick that he threw was the guy was open, and he just it went short because he couldn't get any force into the throw. But like we're gonna get mad at the guy like Tannehill for literally trying to tough it out through all the crap he's dealt with the fan base just getting onto him sitting by an offensive line, getting his ankles messed up. Literally, he got his ankles messed up 3 times in the span of 1 year. I mean, the guy fought through a ton and never gave up, ever.
Yep. For sure. We're going to wish the best for Tannehill moving forward, but definitely Will Levis looks like the future of this franchise. Yep. He's proven all the doubters and naysayers in the draft wrong right now. A lot of games left. That's what we're clinging on to for the rest of the season, though, for sure, is seeing Will Levis can just keep doing what he's doing and then trying to figure out some other playmakers for this team. But we'll have more time to dive more into that in future episodes, Catfish and Ice. But definitely going to keep doing the weekly Titans segments because I love talking football as well. Titans got the Oilers, or I almost said the Oilers. The Titans got the Texans this week, but they're going to be rocking
in Oilers uniforms. I cannot wait.
And is this at Houston or is this at Tennessee?
This is at Tennessee, and I will be there in attendance in my Oilers gear.
Okay, but let me say something. If they're gonna go troll the Houston Texans like they are, they better go out and win. That's all I got to say.
Yep. No, also, Texans will not have CJ Stroud.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah.
So who's their backup?
Davis Mills.
Know nothing about him. He sounds like an insurance agent.
He was a 3rd-round pick who actually looked fairly good in his rookie year. But guess who was his offensive coordinator? It was Tim Kelly, who guess where he is now?
Where?
The Titans. He's our offensive coordinator now.
Hey, how about Davis Mills? Sounds like Davis Mills. No, scratch that. He doesn't even sound like an insurance agent. He definitely sounds like a personal injury lawyer.
Sounds like something, but not a football player.
Were you hurt in a car accident? Were you fender bendered? I can get the money you deserve, Davis Mills.
I mean, if he doesn't make it in the NFL, he might have to try some of that. I mean, he probably won't be getting a second
400
contract.
yards now just because I did that. I just jinxed the whole fan base and the whole Titans organization with making fun of Davis Mills. Now he's going to go out and roast us for 400.
Hey man, we'll see. I'm excited for that game. I'll be in there and I'll be cheering loud and, like I said, in my Oilers gear. I'll be ready for it.
Let's have a couple comments as we close out the episode. I want to say hi to some other people real quick. Lindsay jumps in here and says the Flames are 100% needing to rebuild. Yeah, man, the Flames, they are a big letdown, and it looks like that deck of cards is coming crashing down, and they're going to have to
that Jonathan
take their
Huberdeau
medicine.
contract is not looking good.
Ooh, not looking good at all.
Bad.
Mike Twitter, with his parting words, says Matt Duchene had like a 3-year learning curve, right?
It hurts, but kind of not wrong.
And let's say hi to our friend Buster Bennett. He says, "Yo,
what's going on?
Better late than never." Welcome in, Buster. Enjoy the episode. We'll have it uploaded tomorrow, or you can watch it on the YouTube channel as well. But thank you for hopping in. All right. With that said, we're going to say bye to everybody. This has been a late night edition of Catfish and Ice with Chad Minton and Max Greenberg, episode 213. Hit us up in the comments. Hit us up on X. Hit us up on YouTube. Hit subscribe and follow as well. We love talking hockey with you. Hope you enjoy the game on Friday night. Have a great weekend. We're going to try to get one more episode in before Christmas comes to us. So look forward to that sometime next week. Until then, everyone, have a great evening. Enjoy your days. Enjoy your weekends. We'll talk to you soon.
See you guys later.